Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. Today I stand before you to formally announce the verdict in the case of the last defendant indicted in the carjacking and tragic death of Linda Frickey. This has been an extremely painful chapter for this family and for this entire city. Last night, a jury of New Orleanians unanimously returned a verdict of guilty as charged, convicting John Honore of second-degree murder. This conviction came just 1 week after Honore's 3 co-defendants took full responsibility for their actions and pled guilty to significant charges. Judge Holmes has set a sentencing date for January 12th of 2024. I want to thank this family standing with us today. I want to thank them for putting their trust in this team to deliver justice for them. This has not been easy. This has not been a particularly humane process. But they trusted us, and that meant a lot. The dedication to attend every hearing and use their own voices to speak on behalf of Mrs. Linda are nothing short of amazing. I think it made a big difference at the Fourth Circuit and the Supreme Court and at every court setting. Their unspeakable loss and steadfast resilience resonated with me, with Matt, with our entire trial team, with our entire office, with my mother, and with this entire community. And as we reflect on the horrendous, brutal loss of Mrs. Linda, we must recognize that our city and our neighborhoods deserve to be places of safety and security. The conviction of Honore and his accomplices serves as a reminder that violent acts in the city of New Orleans will not go unpunished. Human beings who hurt human beings in this city will be held to account. I hope that every individual who hears this statement, this press conference, hears from this family, reflects on this case. I hope that they think about the innocent lives altered and the families that are shattered by violent acts. I hope they think about that before they make terrible choices and decisions like the ones that John Honore made. These decisions are irreversible, and they not only affect innocent lives, but they change the entire course of their lives and their siblings' lives and their families' lives. The city of New Orleans has to get back to a place where we are valuing human life. We must value life. This conviction for second-degree murder and the pleas of the 3 co-defendants obtained through the tireless efforts of our homicide unit, particularly Chief Matthew Derbis, signifies a crucial step towards justice. Chief Derbis, along with ADAs Forrest Ladd and Carlos Torres, and trial assistant Chantel Curtini, and victim witness advocate Melissa Robles. This was an exceptional trial team, and I am so thankful for the work that you all put in. It wasn't just yesterday. It was all of the days that led up to yesterday. You all guided this very complicated case through countless obstacles, and I couldn't be more thankful as DA. The professionalism and leadership of Chief Derbis from the beginning of this case throughout this trial has been extraordinary. He expertly balanced the challenges presented and the need for confidence in a highly publicized matter. His and this team's command of the challenges of this case, coupled with emphatic engagement with a family that has grieved and will continue to grieve, is absolutely commendable. Thank you, Matt, for the work that you did, and thank you for staying close to this family during every twist and turn. This result would not have been possible without your dedication. Chief Derbis will be the first to tell you that we don't get to a verdict like we got last night without high-quality police work. And there was high-quality police work by the NOPD. The distressing details of this tragedy and those responsible were substantiated through a very thorough investigation. NOPD Detective Ray L. Johnson and the numerous officers and detectives and crime scene techs played a critical role in gathering up evidence. That AirPod that had the DNA on it, crucial pieces of evidence. The first case I tried as a DA was with Rael. And in that case, Rael, I think you were opening gifts with your kids on Christmas morning, and you were called out to the scene of a homicide. And in that case, again, it was diligent police work in the first moments of the case that proved so vital in proving that case. Rael, thank you, and thank you to all the men and women of the New Orleans Police Department who are doing so much with so little. This verdict should send a powerful message to anyone, young or old, telling them that the consequences are real and that our pursuit of justice is relentless. Our office operates a trauma-informed approach, and we believe in restoration, and we believe in rehabilitation. And while these efforts will persist, it is essential to always emphasize that such options are reserved for circumstances that warrant them. The heinous nature of this crime demanded the full weight of accountability. And, you know, I was talking to one of my ADAs the other day, and she described the DA's office as a dumping ground, as a complaint. Well, it is. We get all of the city's failures, whether it's a school system, whether it's mental health, whether it's addiction help, whether it's poor parenting. When those things go sideways, they don't work out well, the results and the detritus of a flawed system land at the prosecutor's doorsteps, and we are left to do what we can to clean that up. And there are things we're going to have to address as a city, and I hope in the coming weeks and months, and I've had some conversations on the state level and the local level, about dealing with chronic truancy, which is a huge part of what happened in this particular case. This happened in the middle of a school day, and those young people should have been in school. And we need to be working very diligently to make sure that our young people are in school and are in school seats and not in our streets. Today marks the end of a very painful chapter for this city and for this family. I know the city will never forget the face of Mrs. Frickey, and will never forget her name. So in addition to extending deep gratitude for this family for trusting in us at a time when they probably lost their trust in everything except God, huge thanks to the NOPD for everything they did to make sure that we had the evidence we needed to prove the case against each and every defendant. To Judge Kimia Holmes and the jurors, everyone who was involved in this very painful case, it's not hyperbolic to say that any person who saw these pictures or saw this video is changed forever, is traumatized. I think it's safe to say that this jury probably is going to need some time with a therapist to handle and deal with the violence and the brutality that they saw against one of the most vulnerable people in our community, one of our senior citizens, by a young person. It is absolutely traumatizing, and no legal outcome can repair the void that Mr. Honore created. Our hope is that this legal closure can clear the deck for this family to begin to move on and to think about the good times that they had with a truly wonderful person. And with that, I'll turn it over to the architect of this case, who did something that I think is just truly extraordinary work. He made sure we got a trial date this year. That was not guaranteed in this particular case, and I know how much it meant to this family. So, Chief Derbis, thank you, and let him hear from you. Okay, thank you.
You know, from the onset, my charge as Homicide Unit Chief was crystal clear: to lead with compassion and empathy for the Frickey family while ensuring that the correct individuals were held responsible for this heinous crime against an elder citizen. This journey has been marked by ebbs and flows, a complex prosecution demanding unwavering dedication from our entire trial team. We were prepared to fight for convictions for all 4 defendants at trial. However, when there was an opportunity to avoid an emotional and prolonged trial for an already grieving family, we chose to engage the family about their wishes. Knowing that 3 of the 4 defendants were prepared to take accountability for their conduct and receive significant sentences, we agreed accepting a plea was the correct course of action as to the 3 younger defendants. And I think I speak for the family and our office when I say in that moment in court, to see it happen was meaningful, to see those tearful statements of apology and contrition during those pleas. Yesterday's conviction, it's not just a legal victory. It represents a triumph of empathy, of compassion, and the commitment to seek justice for the Frickey family. I want to express my sincere gratitude to District Attorney Jason Williams for entrusting me with this profound responsibility. The faith bestowed upon me by both D.A. Williams and the Frickey family behind me has been a guiding force, motivating our team through the challenges that presented themselves along the way. The Frickey family trusted our office to fiercely represent their interests and treat them with the utmost compassion and sincerity. They stood with us every step along the way, and that fact will stay with me. I cannot forget the incredible efforts of the trial team, of Assistant District Attorneys Forrest Ladd, Carlos Torres, Trial Assistant Chantel Crentini, Ms. Robles, the victim witness advocate, who was there every step of the way with the family, making sure they stayed informed about the process, about what was to happen each step of the way. Their dedication and hard work have been instrumental in bringing this case to its rightful conclusion. Each member of this team played a crucial role in navigating the complexities of this prosecution with diligence and professionalism. I would also like to extend my heartfelt thanks to the outstanding detectives of the New Orleans Police Department, specifically Detective Rael Johnson, and the numerous other officers, detectives, crime scene technicians, Louisiana State Police Crime Lab, everybody behind the scenes, not here today, who worked tirelessly to build a solid foundation for the case we were able to present. Their commitment to excellence in their work has been indispensable. And as we close this chapter, I want us to remember the significance of our collective efforts in seeking justice for Ms. Linda Frickey. We stand united in our commitment to empathy, passion, and holding those responsible for senseless acts of violence accountable. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. And I think you also need to hear from this family, one of the fiercest advocates I've ever seen. And I think you're probably going to hear a lot more from her moving forward on the state level. I know they're going to let this go. Come on up. Come on up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. We'd like to thank the DA's office and to Detective Ryan's. Did you think that day I called you and said, we don't know what to do, we don't know anything about the system, could you get us a meeting with the DA, the mayor, or whoever? Did you think that day would turn into this? It sure changed everything. We went in just bewildered, grieved, didn't know what way to turn. We was in disbelief, we were in shock. And they led us through, told us the details of how things was to proceed, things that we had no clue of how it works. We had our way of it. They did it, they should go right there, but we knew it wasn't that cut and dry. It was very confusing. But they had the compassion and the understanding to walk us through each step of the way, and the support that poured in from everywhere. We were just so blessed to have, we had thousands and thousands of condolences from across the country, because this case was just so phenomenal. It was horrible, and it touched lives, as I said, clean across the country. And moving forward, we're hoping to get change to where our juvenile system is broken, our truancy department is broken, and we need all the vital components to come together for the next generation so that this doesn't keep happening. Children need to be taught respect, and it starts at a young age. We need to have a system in place. With the technology of today, it shouldn't be that hard. Starting in schools, in New Orleans and in our own Jefferson Parish, schools are closing down. Other schools are just overcrowded. There's not enough teachers. There's no certain curriculum. There's nothing to offer these children to stay out of trouble. We need public curriculums for these children, something to steer their attention away from the bad ones that's going to want them. Bad people, they want you to be bad too. So if they can corrupt an innocent one, that's a gain for them. So we need to put the roadblocks into place, and it starts at a young age. They need to be taught respect, which they have no respect for our teachers. And the technology of today is phenomenal. We want to, like I said, implement a system where the truancy and the schools and the juvenile justice can all intertwine together to meet the needs of the children. Parental input is important. People need to care for their children, need to raise their children, not just have them and release them on society. They need to take responsibility, teach children accountability. And then maybe we'll have some change. And we're going to keep fighting for that. Not just prosecute, put them in jail, anything. They need to have guidance. For your underprivileged children, they need to be programs, after-school programs. And then they say there's no money for this. There's lots of money out there. When we voted in the lottery, I voted for the lottery because I was told it's going to be good for the educational system. So much of the percentage of it is going to go to education, to schools. I didn't see where any. I seen schools closing, failing. I moved out of the parish to get to a better educational system for my kids. The money needs to be put there. And also, hope businesses put these cameras in place. The cameras that provided the video of what was done to Linda was put in place merely a month before. And if it wouldn't been for those videos, who knows where we would be today, if they would have even been caught. So all the businesses, it's not that expensive to put a camera to protect your employees all around. Public places, the officials should put cameras in our parks. We have to have Big Brother, so be it, if it means saving a life, or it could save many lives. So I think that moving forward, we are going to seek all the help and channel all the energy to where it needs to be. We're not political people, but we are going to run our mouths until we find that path, until we be heard. I promised Linda at her coffin, as I told her goodbye, I promised her everyone would know her name and they know what was done to her. And we were going to get justice for her. And we were going to make sure that this didn't happen to other people. And we were going to fight. And so forth, I thank God that we were able to keep our promise with the help of the DA system, the prosecuting team, the people of New Orleans. It's phenomenal. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That was spot on, and she's absolutely right. I mean, Carlos can tell you, Forrest can tell you, Matt can tell you, most of the cases we've tried recently, we have not had witnesses knocking down our door to come testify. We have had to rely on technology. We have had to rely on Ring doorbells and license plate readers to be those witnesses in court. She's absolutely right about how essential technology is in doing this job today. On-topic questions, Keith?
Yes, start with Matt Fox.
The defense repeatedly referred to Honore as this idiot kid. Do you agree with that assessment, Mr. Williams, and do you find that relevant to the case?
You know, I think we've got to be really honest about this intersection of crime and young people. I don't think there's anybody here who ever wants to see a young person spending significant years in jail. I also know there's not a single person in this room who believes that it is okay to drag a 73-year-old woman to her death. You know, and the juvenile system is set up in a way that a person would be done with any sentence at the age of 21. That wouldn't be accountability, that wouldn't be justice for a family, and nor would it be enough time to fix what was broken in that person that caused them to make bad choice after bad choice that took a life. So every time Mrs. Linda was kicked, that was a choice. Every time she was punched, that was a choice. Every time she was maced, that was a choice. Every yard he drove with her attached to that seatbelt of that 2 football fields that he drove was a choice. And choices have consequences. You know, and suggesting that a person's age should absolve them of any consequences, that's I'm not quite sure how he thought that was going to play, and I think the unanimous jury verdict made that very clear. This was not an easy thing to do for me or this family. Matt says it all the time, there's no winners and losers in court. That's a Superdome. All we get is verdicts and results.
We've seen a lot of situations in recent years where people that have gotten convictions and sentences have gotten out earlier than what that sentence said because of loopholes in the Department of Corrections. One of those cases was the Jason Adams drunk driving case. Is there any concern with the 3 that took pleas that they could get out well before those 20 years that they've been sentenced to?
You know, we've been, there's probably going to be a lot of conversations in the next several months about truth in sentencing and what a term of years means. Obviously, the DA's office can't control what happens at the Department of Corrections. But the law is pretty clear here, and we've been very clear with this family, and Judge Holmes has been very clear in her discussions with that, and I'm sure there's going to be some more talk about it at sentencing. These folks are going to be in jail for significant years and will not be up for parole until they reach, is it 75 or 85%? 75% of that 20-year sentence. That's a hard and fast time, and we wanted to make sure the family was aware of all of that. And Mr. Honore will be sentenced to a life sentence.
WWL.
So you said yesterday and today multiple times that he made a choice. And unfortunately, this is a choice that's being made a lot here in New Orleans. In fact, the man arrested yesterday for the shooting in the 7th Ward had previously been arrested for illegally possessing a stolen firearm, possession of drugs, and other charges. And earlier this year, your office refused all of those charges, and now he's on the hook for murder. So do you think if your office were tougher on these kinds of cases, juveniles would not be out here thinking that they can, do these felonies and get away with it?
Tougher is, that word tougher, that's not in the criminal code. There's proof beyond a reasonable doubt. There's probable cause for an arrest, and there's proof beyond a reasonable doubt in court. And that means we need witnesses who will testify to prove cases beyond a reasonable doubt to a unanimous jury. That's all that exists. When the evidence is there, we present that evidence to a jury. There's nobody on the first floor, second floor, third floor, fourth floor winging it. There's nobody on the first floor, second floor, third floor thinking, maybe this guy will straighten up. When we have the evidence to present it in court, we present it. Sometimes we lose, and sometimes we win those verdicts. But I'm committed to making sure that we are smart on crime, meaning that we're not going to cheat. We're going to turn over all the evidence. The process is going to be fair in court. And that's to make sure that a family like this doesn't come back 20 years from now and go, oh, well, they hid this evidence so they could win a verdict, right? We just want it to be fair and we want it to be honest. That's what this office is committed to. I've personally tried over 10 cases, murder, rapes, and some of those folks are serving life sentences. And, you know, I think that's about as tough as you can get. And you find me another prosecutor in this state that has personally tried a murder case to verdict, you know, and then we'll do a measure of who's tough and who's not. But we're going to be fair, we're going to be honest, and we're going to hold people accountable in a way that's not going to cost us $5 million 20 years from now because someone cheated.
All right, Jordan from WTNL.
Somewhat a two-parter. One, when the surveillance video first circulated, I think many people were thinking that this would be a clear-cut case, but you all discussed the challenges of this case. Can you tell me a little bit about what those challenges were? Did it have to do with the ages of the defendants? Two, explain why there was no plea deal on the table for Honore. I know that there was this letter submitted yesterday. Was it too little too late? Did you all find this letter to be sincere at all?
So we've done everything that we've done in this case in conjunction, collaboration with this family. We want them to be a part of this process and understand what's going on. There is no open and shut case. There is no easy case. And I'm going to ask Matt to come up and sort of talk to you a little bit about jury selection and what that looks like in Orleans Parish. And the age of perpetrators plays a huge impact in what juries are willing to do. There are some jurors that will tell you that they don't even want to sit in judgment of a young person in adult court, right? And so all of that plays into it. Now, in terms of the letter, you know, a person can write something down on the eve of trial after their three friends have stepped up and accepted their responsibility. A person can write something down, they can send it and file it in with the court. But as my mother tells me, it's not just your words, but it's your actions, it's what you've said and done. And so, you know, we monitored his behavior and actions and words, everything that we could legally do leading up to trial to do our job. And the letter did not ring sincere and consistent with his behavior, acts, and words for the months that it took to try this case. He knew that was, he knew he was in that car. He saw this video. Asking for another year to test DNA when the case is what it is, when you haven't even found an expert to test the DNA, that's a delay tactic. That's not accountability. That's not fair to a family that just simply wants closure. Matt, why don't you talk a little bit about the complexity?
I mean, although this happened on video, you have to keep in mind, you know, as the investigation unfolded, there was not a single eyewitness that came forward and was able to identify any one of the four defendants involved in the carjacking. We had the video. This was not one of the videos like some other cases where we can make an identification purely off the video. And quite frankly, you know, until that DNA and fingerprint evidence came back from the lab, this case was solved by the parents, to some extent, of these defendants who, you know, see the images on the news and say, that's my son, that's my daughter, I'm going to do the right thing, despite how difficult that was for those parents to do, seeing their children on the news committing this heinous and incredibly awful murder, and to step up and to go to the detective and to go to the police and say, that's you know, that's my child. The complexity becomes then is that statement is only admissible if they also come to testify at trial. We had those parents under subpoena, but there were real concerns about them just not showing up, and what do we do? Luckily, you know, we had other evidence at that point in terms of DNA and fingerprint evidence and some other video that was collected where we could establish some things. So there was, you know, everybody that I had talked to about this case, well, why is it taking so long? Why is it taking so long? You have it on video, and yes, you had it on video, but there was also DNA, and there's also, and I've explained this to the Frickey family, you cannot rush a murder case, despite how much you want to rush a murder case, if you don't do it correctly along the way and don't give the defendants, all four, this wasn't just one defendant, all four defendants, a right to have meaningful pretrial disclosure, discovery, motion hearings, due process. If you don't do that along the way and you get wrapped up in a motion and you go forward and rush it, what happens is 10 years now, 15 years from now, the appellate court is overturning that conviction. And that is a very, very difficult conversation to have with a family, to say, you know what, the person before me, the prosecutor before me made a mistake, and now we have to relive this again in a trial. One of the other issues the DA asked me to address was, you know, prosecuting juveniles as adults in criminal district court in this parish was a challenge. We had 25 jurors, the first panel, Mr. Ladd and I had, and one of the things we told ourselves is, look, we need to pass the microphone to every single juror and ask them, the defendant was 17 when this happened. How do you feel about the prosecution of him as an adult in this courtroom and not in juvenile court? And all but one of the 25 jurors, all but one, indicated they had an issue with the prosecution of juveniles. And we further explored, you know, their opinions, and keep in mind these 25 people sort of becomes a microcosm or a sampling of us, this city and this parish and the people that live here. And they all said, well, I have a problem, but I'm going to look at the facts and circumstances of this case. I'm going to look at everything in this case. And like the DA had said earlier, that, you know, this case, you know, crosses a line. This was so heinous and so brutal that the jury looked at that and they said, despite our reservations about prosecution of juveniles as adults, this particular case, it was obviously the right move. And they reflected that with their verdict.
Anything else? Keith, we're good? Thank you, everybody. Thank you.